Welcome back to the Real Couchwives podcast, where we overanalyze all things Bravo.
And you guessed it, we're talking about the Toms. Yeah, so as Vanderpump Rules continues, the Toms just look worse and worse. It is honestly becoming so difficult to watch.
It really is, and it's also so fascinating to watch. Just because, it's just, I think that this is the season that you see the most of the seams of kind of like what is being created for us through kind of Vanderpump Rules and through reality TV. And partially I kind of like wonder if that's because we've become so like media literate, and like we're always like thinking about this and, understanding that storylines are being created. And so now when we see storylines being created in front of our eyes, we can actually catch on to it.
Yeah.
And I guess, it's such an interesting episode of the season to be getting to watch, because it's just, everything's all happening.
Well, that's it, right? Like, I feel like now that we know everything that happened with the Scandoval, we can see Tom Sandoval basically like self-producing, and like, I know a lot of people are speculating too that he's producing Raquel and the way that she's acting. And he's like, you could tell that he's setting up these storylines to later basically like put the crumbs. Oh my God, what am I saying? He's cutting up these storylines so that
nobody hears. He's placing the crumbs so that we can kind of like,
we see Tom Sandoval now like producing himself, and also, arguably producing Raquel, and we see him planting the kind of seeds to later be able to break up with Ariana and be like, oh, our relationship was, so bad. He's very clearly trying to write this narrative.
Yeah, and I wonder if he hadn't done the Howie Mandel interview, if we would like be able to see it in kind of the same way, because I think a lot of the Howie Mandel interview, introduced us to a lot of the topics that he was going to go after. And now, like the them not being in a good place, him not being sure about this whole like fertilization of her eggs, like just all of the kind of dynamics of their relationship that he like went over in that interview. We're now seeing him really hammer like home those points in the most recent episodes of Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
Especially with like, him being like, oh, she thinks I'm unintelligent. She, what was the other complaint? It was unintelligent and annoying.
Annoying. Oh,
yeah, she finds me annoying. And then even just for like the comparison of like one episode to the next, like the one where he's talking with Ariana on the couch at their house, and he's like bringing up these things like, I think you think that I'm annoying. I think you think that I'm not intelligent. And she's like, no, Tom, like I wouldn't date you if you weren't intelligent. And then she's also like, no, like I'm sure you'll find me annoying too. And then literally the next episode, he's like talking to Tom Schwartz, and he's like, she thinks I'm unintelligent, she thinks that I'm annoying. And it's like, well, you just had to say that because she's already like told you that she doesn't think that, but now you need to make sure that we're like carrying the plot along with this like whole like she's the reason that our relationship isn't working.
It's so true. I mean, that's a good point. I feel like because literally almost verbatim everything he said in that interview, we then saw him say in that conversation with Ariana. Also, I don't know how you felt about it, but it felt so random and like forced, that conversation on his part. Like Ariana felt like literally confused by what he was saying. Like I feel like they're having a total different conversation about like her freezing her eggs, and then he's just like, like I think you it's like you find me annoying. And she it feels like she's almost so like she almost doesn't even give it that much like space, because she's like, what are you saying? Like the way that she's talking to him, you could tell that she was like, what are you talking about? Like she didn't even get angry. She was super cool and collected, but like it did feel like she was probably like, where's this coming from? Like, what are you saying?
Like, where is this going? Like, what is this like kind of scene supposed to be in your mind? Yeah, no, that was so strange, especially because like, did he only go after those things because she told him like, well, maybe you should take less shots, and like, you should find other ways to like deal with like, your stress and like coping mechanisms that are a little bit healthier. It felt very weird to like kind of see that little glimpse into their relationship, and knowing what we know now too with like how Raquel and Tom Sandoval are already hooking up at this point. regardless of how involved that hookup is, it's definitely something that's at least happened and it's been confirmed that it's happened.
It's so weird. And then the conversation that he had with Schwartz too was so frustrating on Schwartz's end too. And he's like, yeah, it does feel like she's like doesn't. What did he say? He's like she doesn't back you or like he's quick
she's quick to denounce you or something like that. Yeah, and like it's a slippery slope in a relationship.
It's like this is a man who literally has called his wife like stupid, told her to shut up, poured drinks on her face. Like you're really gonna make that comment about Ariana, who has been such a ride or die girlfriend to Sandoval for so many years. The one time that we see her stand up to him on camera, he basically goes and cries about it.
Yeah, exactly. Now that he has like finally the one piece of evidence that he has, they're like, look, this is the flashback that we can use whenever, you know, I'm saying something mean about how Ariana is so awful. You guys can flash back to the time that she told me that she wasn't going to help me fight with the other girls. I know that whole conversation with Schwartz in general, just like the acting, the overacting of it all, the like, the dumpling latte thing, like what is
when Schwartz is like, oh, I feel like I'm not attracted to her, and he's like, you don't have to be attracted. And then when she's like, he's like, I feel like she being Raquel has a crush on someone else. And Sandoval's like, what? Like it was the worst acting I've ever seen.
Well, and I wonder, and I think I heard about this on She Speaks Bravo's podcast. They were kind of like speculating that maybe that was, I think it was She Speaks Bravo's podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts. About how that was actually like Schwartz's way of kind of like digging a little bit at Sandoval, and like the preview that we've seen for next week too, where he makes the comment about like, oh, Brock and Sandoval, you guys better watch out because, you know, Raquel has a type. And they're like, what type is that? And he's like, taken men. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, so the shark is getting a little testy here. Like, really play in with the limits of this information that you have there, buddy.
It's true. Well, it's also speculated that Sandoval told Schwartz in Mexico. So that would mean that that scene was totally fake. Yeah. If it's true.
Yeah. I think the scene is totally fake.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. But like, they both acted it terribly.
Yeah, horribly. But I do think that like that whole idea that like Schwartz is kind of like digging at Sandoval a little bit, it feels a lot like the old days with Jax too, where Jax would have this information on these guys and he would just like, you know, drop tiny little truth bombs here and there, and then they'd have to try to like cover for it and make up other versions of stories and be like, you know, I couldn't make a phone call in the hotel because, you know, the Wi-Fi wasn't working, so we could only talk on the phone and not on video, and like whatever, you know, I think things like that, versions of the stories that came out when they were allegedly hooking up with other women.
The boys club.
Boys club.
Speaking of Schwartz pushing at him, it was so satisfying to see Schwartz finally kind of pop off at Sandoval, which I feel like has never happened before, right? When he was like, when Sandoval was having a grown temper tantrum about opening the restaurant.
Yeah,
Schwartz was like,
open it. We should open it. It just has to open.
We can serve potato chips and then have like a 2.0 rating. Yeah, like, is that your goal?
Like what?
Yeah, that's a whole other thing that I want to talk to you about. But yeah, like watching Schwartz actually be like that, like your words are like empty, like you're not putting action behind it, was so nice. And then Lisa for some reason got like really distraught over this.
Yeah,
and was like, those are big accusations.
Yeah,
it's like, not really.
It's not that big of an accusation, and like it's true. Like it's just it really baffles my mind how much Sandoval has like created the storyline of like Greg being the reason that they haven't opened. And I'm just like, but you went on like tour like for 3 months, and now Schwartz has like finally said it. Like,
yeah. And then they went to Mexico for like, you know, a week before. And then basically when their staff had to do what they had to do, which was like fire the
line, another line cook,
head
but like
chef,
the main chef.
Yeah, because he couldn't make a plate.
Yeah,
like Sandoval got so mad at him, and it's like, these people are out here running your restaurant for you. Like honestly, I was appalled at his behavior. Like I feel like you haven't seen his manager really push back on him until that scene, and like you could see he was really mad.
Yeah. Well, and I was even kind of like a little bit frustrated with Brett at the end of that scene because I was like, why are you guys all like, I get that you have to get along with the people that you're like working for, but like, why are you guys like laughing at, because they just kind of like brush it under the rug. They like laughed about it afterwards. They're like, okay, well, we're done. You know, we're happy now. And I was like, no, I'm still mad at Sandoval. You can't still be over being mad at Sandoval now too.
He just blames everything on everyone else. Like it's always been his deal. And I feel like I didn't realize the extent to which he also pulls like a very like Jax thing to do, which is like, well, other people are worse. Like,
yeah.
Like when Ariana was like, oh, you know, like we should have like better ways of coping. He's like, well, everyone has unhealthy ways of coping. It's like, Jesus,
I'm not the only person that has unhealthy coping mechanisms. Oh my God,
other people's restaurants can't open either.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's having a hard time right now, which admittedly they are. It's very hard to find, you know, staff to work back at house, but still.
But just like the way that he literally blamed everyone and was like, I'm paying for it. Like,
yeah.
Okay, well then maybe you should have been there more.
Yeah. But also like he says like, I'm paying for it. But then he's also like, well, did you just try throwing the guy a little bit more money when like one of the people like walked out? I wasn't even sure what they were talking about. They were talking like the booth guy. I'm like, who's the booth guy? Is he building booths? Is he like a DJ booth? Like what kind of booth are we talking about here?
It's James's DJ booth that he's on top of the toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly. It's not fully constructed yet.
They're looking so bad. Schwartz in this most recent episode too. I think like what's becoming so clear is that he really like gets off on poking Katie, and I feel like he's used to her exploding on him when he pokes her, and now that she's giving him nothing, it is literally driving him into insanity.
Well, and I think that's just it. I think he's always used Katie as the way to like deflect his own bad behavior, right? Because like he was able to fully push her buttons. He knew exactly how to do it and get her to react in the way that he wanted her to. So no matter what happened with the arguments that the two of them were having, Katie ended up looking like the crazy person that like everybody couldn't stand, because you're like, wow, like you really crossed the line or whatever. Like, you know, we've had so many years of disliking Katie and liking Schwartz, and it's because Schwartz was able to create that narrative for us, right? Like by the end of the day, we were like, oh, well, Schwartz isn't that bad, you know, like he's got his faults, but
it's
Katie's
so true.
The crazy one.
Part of me like wants to rewatch now and wonder if I would look at this situation completely differently.
I feel like you would. I feel like, how could you not? Like, seeing the people that they've grown into. Oh my God.
I do, but I also think, and I've said this before, I also think at the beginning, Kaylee was genuinely really mean. And like had a lot of things that would make you kind of think differently about her.
Yeah.
But I feel like now we would at least see through the Schwartz like facade.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I feel like even some episodes he still gets you a little bit. You're like, oh, but like the most recent ones, I'm like, oh, this is really not working for you.
No,
like,
this is not good.
Like, and you can tell he's trying to do it. He's trying to be like, who, me? And then it's just like making it worse.
Yeah. Well, I think you even see it, like it's easier to see it. It's the relationship is more difficult between Schwartz and Katie. I think that they have such a long, detailed history, and we, as the audience members, have such a long, detailed history of watching these two people. But watching the fight between Schwartz and Lala, I think really made me understand kind of like his fighting style and how he kind of like does that, right? Like he kind of just like starts off like saying a little thing like, oh yeah, I was callous, like I was sorry, it was my bad, like whatever. And then he like completely like the way that he escalated that argument with Lala to like talking about kind of like, you know, you're the personification of an Instagram post. You are, you know, you're full of Botox and you're blowing up lips, and like, you know, you're a bootleg housewife, like all these things that he was saying. It's like those insults have to live pretty close to your brain to like be able to be like shot out that quickly. Like if you didn't really deeply feel, or if you didn't at least think those things, you wouldn't be able to kind of like find them as quickly as Schwartz found them. And he found some pretty horrendous things to bring up about Lala.
And it's always the women.
It's always the women. But then he also like ended that conversation with being like, you're a great mom, because now like he's thrown in like a compliment at the end and it disarms you, right? Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to be like, what? Oh, well, thank you. I don't know. Like, what are you supposed to say to that? Like, luckily she'd already walked on at that point, and she was like ignoring him. But
Yeah.
it's just, it's just like, because that's the last thing that you hear, that's the last thing that you remember,
He doesn't
and he
expect
benefits from that.
Yeah, and he doesn't expect to have any consequences from, I think, any of his interactions, because at the end he's like, "Oh, it's all jokes, like it's all
Yeah,
love, you know?" Like,
yeah, yeah.
but
Like,
it's also been brought up that like him and James had just got into it before, and like he
mhm,
kind of settled it really quickly with James, but like
yeah,
he's usually fighting with women more so than he is
yeah,
fighting with men. Like,
yeah.
like in this show historically, both
Yeah.
Sandoval and him.
Yeah. Well, and also like the version of the fighting too, I feel like is so different. Like going after Lala because she like lives up to this beauty standard and like all the things that she does to be able to do that, and like, you know, that being the thing that you think that you feel like entitled to like go after, versus like the comments to James like were stupid comments, but like
Mhm.
nothing was really about like his body image or how he looks or what he needs to do in order to like, fit into a standard, right? Like it's not the same, like,
No, for sure. It's totally different.
yeah.
Speaking of James, did you catch his Watch What Happens Live?
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh my God.
You know what's so funny about it? He was also like equally unhinged and like
He was
chaotic,
so
but
unhinged.
it was like, I guess it's because he's saying things that we all want to hear, and we're all like, yes. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, it had a total different effect than Schwartz's, who was
Mhm.
also chaotic and unhinged, but in
Yeah.
a different way.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's kind of interesting because I feel like James is very like smart and he's like witty and he's like on it. And I think that like that like translates really well to something like Watch What Happens Live, where you're really like you're getting tiny little sound bites and he's like answering questions really quickly. And
Mhm.
Schwartz also, said a lot of big words at Watch What Happens Live. Like, you would think that he was kind of like smart based on like the words that he was able to like pull out, but his delivery of those lines was just like all over the place, and he couldn't stand by anything that he said.
Yeah,
And he just
yeah.
like forgot, he had like full on amnesia, like 2 seconds after he said it. Like,
Yeah.
such a different experience.
James also wasn't really in the hot seat, right? Like he was here to
No.
speculate and to kind of
Yeah.
be funny, and that's like the role he's playing this whole season. Like,
Yeah.
I
But
have
James
to
also
say,
isn't covering anything up, right? Schwartz is
no, it's
covering up
true.
all of the months of knowing what he's known about
That's
this relationship.
true. James is like, and I don't know, I wonder if we would be kind of like a little bit harsher on James this season had all the Scandoval and like Schwartz just being terrible not happened. I wonder if we would be a little more kind of looking at some of the things that James is doing, but I just find him freaking hilarious.
Yeah. I feel like James, no matter what, like no matter how I felt about him every season, he's a little bit of like a guilty pleasure. Like you know that you shouldn't like him, you know that you shouldn't root for him, but like every once in a while he's just able to like nail a line in a confessional or like in a fight, and you're just like, oh, that was a good one. Like,
He says so. He's kind of like the Candace of
he is, yeah.
of VPR, that like he
is.
says some like really low blows, like
Mhm.
zingers, but you're like,
Oh, yeah.
damn.
Oh, you got him.
But like quite mean. He definitely goes for the
Really
jugular.
mean. Yeah, like I wouldn't want to be around him because I don't want him to say anything about me, but I can appreciate it from afar. And like for as a reality TV star, he's reality TV gold. Like,
I mean, I still kind of like seeing the scene with him and Lala together. I kind of think they're soulmates.
I know. And even in the fight that they were having, and this is actually interesting because I feel like we're going to talk about Ali, and so I want to kind of compare like these two dynamics, because the way that Lala and James like teamed up with one another against Schwartz in that fight at the bar, like that was just beautiful to me, right? Like,
yeah, it's like I might have opinions on both of you, but I stand by what's happening.
What you're doing here. Yeah, exactly. And they really like were able to like hit him with like a 1-2 punch. Like they had just done such a good job. Like, what?
Yeah, Lala was like, put us both on Watch What Happens Live together. Yeah, it's like, yes, honestly,
okay, let's do it.
I would love that. Andy,
we're ready.
But yeah, honestly, like when they were talking though, they had a scene together, and I was just like, these two people, are so similar, and I feel like they just like are so themselves with each other,
with one another. Yeah, they both, because they've also probably seen each other at like their absolute worst, right? Like
well, they have 100%.
fully, yeah. So I think that they can be like fully 100% real with one another, and they fully call each other out on their things as well, right? Like they're not afraid to do that, which I think makes them all the stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
No,
they
for
are
sure.
soulmates. Maybe they
I
will end up
honestly, I
together
really
one
feel like
day.
they are, but like to be fair, I think it would be like it would be a disaster.
Oh, you think so?
I don't know. It could either be amazing or it could be horrible
I
because
can
they're
kind of
both
see
just
it.
so quick to pop off.
Yeah, I could see it kind of like happening like 10 years down the road, where they're
Yeah.
like they both like maybe they've like settled down like once or twice before. You know, they're like at a stage where they are ready to be kind of like James is ready to be a parent, and you know Lala's ready to like be with him. Like maybe, you know, I could see it happening. Maybe.
Yeah, same. I
I
mean,
could see
I do think that they've actually both grown quite a bit. Like like
it.
when James is drinking, he definitely regresses, but like you do
Yeah.
see moments in him. Lala has said before, like I think becoming a mom has definitely changed her a
Oh, I'm
lot.
sure.
So yeah, I'd be interested to see what happens there. But
Okay.
yeah, Allie, I have to say, I remember the first time we talked about her and we are like, oh, I don't know, like about this
Yeah.
girl. Like she's like that conversation she had with Raquel was so weird. Like, you know, she seemed kind of like ditzy. I feel like she actually seems like quite a put together normal person in this group. And I really like that she actually calls out James. Like when he throws his like temper tantrums, she literally just walks away and she kind of puts him in his place a little bit.
Yeah.
And she like has some I don't know, she has some interesting like viewpoints on the group.
She definitely does. So I think I'm feeling the opposite way. Mainly just because I did see that kind of like the way that Lala and James kind of like backed one another up. I kind of like, I don't want Allie to do what Raquel did, and Raquel really did kind of like, you know,
just co-sign him.
Yeah, to a certain extent, and like, you know, it was not a good relationship for either of them. They were not with the people that they were supposed to be with. But I guess I kind of wish to a certain extent that Allie like maybe didn't go after him in the way that she did so publicly. Not that like, I don't know. It's so hard because it's like in a real relationship, you wouldn't really like shame your partner in front of a group of friends, right? Like you would like say like, yeah, that was really stupid, or come sit down and shut up. Like, and
that's
I know she didn't say them in that way, but
yeah. But I think it's just because like they're so like these characters are so like, I don't know, like extra
unhinged,
like unhinged and like you like I never even actually once thought about it in the perspective of like if my partner did that to me. I guess because like James is so different, like that like he's just like at a 100, so you just don't think about someone coming in and like giving him that grace. But it's true, like that isn't a super respectful thing to do. I think it's also because I'm more comparing her to Raquel, and I feel like he seems like a better fit for him than Raquel. But I didn't think of her in terms of Lala.
And like I do think that like it's also obviously like a different dynamic when you are on a reality TV show, because I do think like James was constantly verbally harassing Raquel, like, you know, Tom and Kate, we've talked about how like their dynamic was super unhealthy. You know, Jackson and Stassi, like if we go back to them, like they were always like super toxic too. So like,
so we're just used to that on this show.
Maybe, and that's just it. Like, so like because there were moments when I was like, oh yeah, good for you, Allie, and then I was like, well, I mean, actually, but yeah, that's just it. So yeah.
But she's honestly grown on me, I think, more than I thought that she would. Also, Charlie is coming in with just like good advice, to be honest.
Charlie's been a bit of a like silent one this season. I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't like gotten to see her a little bit more. I know,
and she wasn't at the reunion.
She wasn't at the reunion. I know, and she hasn't been on Watch What Happens Live. Like, we haven't gotten anything from Charlie. I'm very confused because I do feel like Charlie brought down Jax Taylor. Like,
it's so, and she brings
imagine
it.
What she could do to Sandoval. Like, I don't understand why they like demoted her like mid-season. It seems like, because we really aren't seeing her anymore.
No. Like, and it is weird that she hasn't been on Watch What Happens Live as well.
Yeah, there's been nothing.
Yeah.
Just to quickly go back to Allie, one second. Did you clock that her kind of like interpretation of events kind of changed each time she had like a conversation about what she saw at the Abbey? I thought that was very interesting because like the version with James was I saw Raquel and Tom like dancing at the Abbey. I thought it was super weird. Do you think I should talk to Ariana? And then her version with Sheena was like, well, I told the girls that I saw Raquel and Tom at the Abbey. I didn't think it was that weird, but they seemed to have feelings about it. And then she like talked about the
Open
like
relationship.
Sheena,
And
like
she also made it seem like Katie had said they were in an open relationship,
right?
which is not what happened.
And Sheena definitely took that and ran with it.
Yeah.
Even though, and I do think that Allie at least tried to like cover it a little bit, being like, I don't think this is exactly what she said, but I think that was Sheena actually. Sheena was like, I don't think this is exactly what she said, but she alluded to it being an open relationship, which Sheena then reports it back to Sandoval. And then when at the end of the episode when Allie is talking to Katie about what she had said to kind of like bring this whole open relationship conversation into the group, Allie's interpretation of the events were like, I know that you said public knowledge. Like, it's not like public knowledge, or if it's not in the public knowledge, it's okay.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, well, this is the first time we're hearing public knowledge in this version of the story. Like, where did this come from?
That's true. I noticed that it changed a little bit, but like, yeah not that much. That's interesting.
Public knowledge is very different.
I think she didn't realize how much it was going to spiral, or I don't know. That's like some pretty like
that's just it. I give her some grace for that because like I wouldn't know how to handle this situation either.
No, because when she was talking to James, she did seem genuinely just like, I don't want to start like a big thing, like what should I do with this information? But then like I think she started getting scared at like how big it started to get.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're probably right about that, and rightfully so.
I also didn't realize how much a lot of the cast had been catching on to Raquel and Tom. I was like really surprised to see that.
You're like, where did we think this was gonna go, guys? Like the we fact that the season in one episode. Like technically, the next episode is gonna be the last episode that they actually filmed.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the last episode because then there's 2 episodes after that are like the post.
There's only 3 more episodes until the reunion?
I'm pretty sure there's only 3 more episodes until the reunion, yeah. I could be lying, but I'm pretty sure there's only 3 more episodes until the reunion.
But yeah, everyone, like Katie did say in one of the Watch What Happens Live that she was not surprised that it was Raquel, but she was shocked at like the details. But that was the first time we'd heard anything about it. Everyone else was like totally shocked.
Yeah.
So that is weird. I know people are kind of like talking about that. I did see that
people are definitely talking about that. Yeah. Everybody's like very confused how like this wasn't more of a thing that like got pursued.
Stassi said, I think in I guess one of her shows, like
she's like touring right now, right?
Yeah, like someone had brought this up, being like, well, how could you be both like shocked but then also not surprised because you already had like thoughts about it?
Yeah.
And she was kind of saying that production will kind of get hints of things and they'll like follow the story to see where it had gone. And I think I forget the example she used from the past, but like it didn't necessarily mean they knew that was a thing, but they're just like, let's go follow this to see what happens.
Comes out. Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't realize that like Katie and Lala were talking about it so frequently.
That's just it. Like seeing it now, you can definitely like, I don't agree that it is a fake storyline, but you can definitely see why people thought it was a fake storyline because you're watching this and you're like, how could you guys not know? Like you're literally talking about it 6 or 7 months ago and you didn't know that it was happening? Like, what do you mean you didn't know it was happening? Of course you knew. You were picking up on things. Like, what are you talking about? That was so wild.
Sheena's gonna be eating her words this reunion.
Oh my god, that's gonna be so hard.
So bad for her.
Really,
the whole like I would trust Brock in the same bed as Raquel.
Yeah, I know. You're just like, oh, Sheena. You picture the boys once again, and this is where it's gotten you.
It's so true. Honestly, like the more episodes go by, the more it is clear that like she 100% is backing Raquel this hard because she doesn't want to back Katie. Like I don't like that.
Yeah,
like she's literally doing this to get back at Katie because like it's gotten to a point where it's like this is a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, and even the way that like Sandoval, like spun the story when Sheena was like approaching him to talk about what she had heard from Allie. and he like instantly knows like, okay, I'm gonna like latch on to the Raquel of it all and say that they're going after her. And then as soon as I say that to Sheena, Sheena's fully gonna run with it and be like, yeah, I know, it's so crazy that they're like profiling Raquel and like making her out to be this baddie. And like, Sheena, you just like fully took the bait, and like now you're not even questioning him about this like potential rendezvous. You're just going after, and you just want to like talk shit about like Katie and Lala and how they're always going after Raquel and how unfair that is that they're always going after Raquel.
Yeah. No, it's he did it perfectly. And like the same thing with Raquel when he told her that Katie said that she was a whore.
Yeah.
Like, obviously she's going to be upset by that. And then you get to swoop in and like comfort her as like the savior.
Yeah. Sever any chance of her having a relationship with these women in this group, because heaven forbid. And if you do have a relationship with the women in this group, then maybe she's going to tell them about the fact that you guys have this little secret affair going on.
Honestly, if Raquel was smart, I feel like she would take the position that she was manipulated by Sandoval and she was in a vulnerable position.
That would be smart.
I don't think she's going to, though. I think she's going to like stand by him, and like they're both going to go down together.
Yeah, I think it's going to take her like many years of therapy to like get to the point where she understands that that's like what Sandoval has done basically to her. Did you also, there was this moment in when they were at the like restaurant after the beach day, and it's just so funny, it was Sheena and Raquel decided that they were going to confront Lala and Katie about what they had said. And it's just so funny to me because the way that Sheena said basically like, Lala, if you had a good friend who, you know, they were going to hook up with somebody, like, would you want them to like go for it, or would you tell them to ask more questions? And honestly, like verbatim, I was like, oh my God, this is Ramona going up to Bethany in Roni ending like season 8 or 9 and being like, Bethany, like when you have like a girlfriend and you want to like, you know, ask them difficult questions, like do you ask them questions? I'm like, is that what you do if you have like a good friend?
That's
and I was like, oh yeah, Ramona Singer is at this beach today, guys.
Okay. Since you brought up Ramona, we have to quickly talk about her freaking podcast with her daughter.
It's
I'm sorry.
A disaster.
No one who keeps giving this woman a platform. Like, take it away.
No one asked for this. And like, I don't even think either of them want to do it. Like, based on like the little amount that I've heard of it, it's just like, this is so bad. Like, I don't understand why you're doing this at all.
It kind of sounds like her daughter trying to like, it's literally like the podcast is her daughter trying to teach her how to like not say super inappropriate things.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Mom, laid off is not the same as fired. Well, you know, it's the same. You don't have a job. You don't have a job. It's the same.
Yeah.
No, Mom, those are different. Like, I fear that a podcast would be even more unhinged, Ramona, because there's not even like context to set her up. It's just like rambling.
Yeah.
I only saw clips on Instagram
too.
Yeah. I would not subject myself to that.
No, I don't think anybody should be watching that or listening to that. There is another Turtle Time podcast if anybody wants to support that one instead. That's the original Turtle Time podcast, also about Bravo stuff. That we should be listening to instead, I think.
Oh gosh, there's so many. And then Kristen too now started to do a rewatch.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my God.
A section of her podcast now is going to be recapping.
Oh, lol. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We don't stand a chance.
I was like, guys, we just started. Can you give us some space?
Well, according to Ryan Bailey, this week Vanderpump Rules is being casted, so we might know pretty soon if Kristen, Jax, Brittany, or anybody has made their triumphant return to Vanderpump Rules for season 1.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for that.
I
really never thought I would want Kristen back, but
I know, me too.
I do.
I really want Kristen back. I don't want Jax and Brittany back. They can have their rewatch TV show.
Yeah.
We can have Kristen back on the TV show, whatever, reality TV show.
Kristen can come on the podcast too if she wants to.
On the podcast. We've never seen no. But yeah, that way Kristen can give up the podcast, and then she can just like we leave it to us. Amazing.
Gosh.